The monocots, also known as monocotyledons, are a monophyletic group of flowering plants. They get their name from their one cotyledon, an embryo seed leaf. This is distinctive, as most flowering plants have two cotyledons, like basil. The monocots are an easily recognizable group because, besides the one cotyledon, they have parallel leaf venation and often have flower petals in multiples of 3. They are almost always herbs, not trees. The monocotyledons are a clade that contains 11 or so orders, 78 families, and approximately 60,000 species. They contain a large diversity of secondary chemical compounds derived from many different pathways. The phylogenetic tree of the monocots looks something like this. Inside them, there is a monophyletic group called the commelinids, which contains the poaceae, the grasses, the aracales, the palm trees, and also includes groups of bananas, ginger, and canna lilies. However, a lot of diversity is found outside the commelinids. The order Asparagales is an amazingly diverse group, and contains the irises, onions, and orchids. The orchid family is the second largest plant family after the Asteraceae. The order Liliales contains lilies and crocuses. The Pandanales contain screwpines, and the Dioscoriales include yams. The Petrosaviales are a tiny order with only 3 species. The Elismatales contain seagrasses that live fully submerged, and the Elismatales also contain the large leafy arums that include many popular houseplants such as monstera. Finally, the Acorales, which are basal within the monocots, are a very small order. They are marsh-dwelling plants that have multiple characters that show them to be transitory examples in the evolution of monocots. Overall, the monocots are rich in secondary chemical structures, with something being found in nearly all clades. The Liliales and Asparagales both contain a lot of significant alkaloids within many of their groups. The Dioscoriales, Pandanales, Aracales, Commelinales, and Zingiberales have some alkaloids in some of their groups, but not as many as the Asparagales or the Liliales. The other groups do not have as many interesting structures, or maybe they have not been discovered yet. Now, let us take a closer look at those chemicals and the plants that make them. The Dioscoriaceae are the family that contain yams. The yams, genus Dioscorea, synthesize phytosteroids, among them diosgenin and its derivatives. Due to diosgenin's structural similarity to human hormones, diosgenin is used as a cheap precursor for the lab syntheses of these hormones. Dioscorin, a toxic alkaloid, is also found in some yams. It is an antagonist of the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor and has been used as an arrow poison in Southeast Asia. The Tachaceae, a closely related family to the Dioscoriaceae, synthesize different bioactive phytosteroids, known as the tachanolides and withanolides. The tachanolides have only been found within the Tachaceae, and may be an apomorphy for the clade. Moving on to the next group, the Pandanales. The Stemonaceae are a relatively small Southeast Asian family. They contain a distinct group of compounds known as the stemona alkaloids. The stemona alkaloids have anti-insect properties and have been used to treat parasitic infections. This group is quite complex for such a small family, and while their investigation has intensified in recent years, the biosynthesis is not yet fully understood. In any case, they are likely made from a mixture of amino acids and terpene units. The closely related Pandanaceae contain the pandanus alkaloids, the pandanamines, a class of simple alkaloids that are significant because they likely represent the intermediates for biosynthesis of the stemona alkaloids. This raises questions about whether stemona alkaloids were gained in the Stemonaceae or if they were lost in the Pandanaceae, and they are a good example of chemical evolution and diversification. For now, we will skip the Liliales and Asparagales in the phylogenetic tree and take a closer look at the commelinid clade. The Aracales, the palm order, does not really have a particularly developed secondary chemistry. There is one big exception, however, the areca palm. These palms have seeds that contain arecoline, a very interesting yet simple compound. Aracholine is a mild stimulant that is apparently similar to nicotine, and an estimated 600 million people use it, mostly in the Asian Pacific. The areca nuts are traditionally wrapped in betel leaves and chewed with lime. This mixture turns saliva and eventually teeth dark red, almost black, and has contributed to the disproportionate mouth cancer rates in southern Asia. Another group, the Comelinales, includes an interesting taxon of plants known as the Hemodoraceae. The Hemodoraceae family contain kangaroo paws, Australian plants named for the distinctive shape of their beautiful flowers. Another genus, Hemodorum, in this family has dark-colored roots, which can be extracted for dark pigments, for which the plants are appropriately named blood roots. The dark color comes from phenolones, two of which are named hemodorin and hemocorin, with their glycosides also present. Their ability to absorb light likely comes from their extensive conjugation and phenol enolate ketone tautomeric forms. Another order, the Zingiberales, also contain a pigment compound you likely have in your kitchen, curcumin. Curcumin is found in the rhizomes of turmeric, a plant related to ginger. Curcumin makes turmeric bright yellow. The turmeric rhizomes are dried and ground up and used as a pigment, medicine, and food coloring. In curry. Curcumin also has a long and conjugated structure, letting it absorb at wavelengths within the visible light spectrum. There are other closely related structures as well that are found in turmeric and contribute to its color and taste. Now, let us finally look at the liliales and asparagales. They both sporadically contain a compound known as chelidonic acid. It was previously thought that chelidonic acid was an apomorphy for the liliales only, but it has been found in some asparagales as well, which upsets this perfect model and invites further investigation. In general, the liliales and asparagales do not have many easily seen apomorphies that can be used to distinguish which one a plant belongs to. However, one chemical apomorphy for the asparagales is the presence of a phytomelon coating for their seeds. Phytomelon is a black shiny material. It is a polymer whose structure is not yet confirmed. Phytomelon is not fully distributed throughout the asparagales, however, as it has been secondarily lost in some groups, like the Orchidaceae, the Iridaceae, and the Amaryllidae subfamily. Phytomelon is distributed sporadically throughout the flowering plants, so it has either arisen many times independently or had been lost multiple times. It is likely, however, that it has been gained independently. Some other interesting chemicals are the colchicum alkaloids within the Colchisaceae family, including crocuses and other pretty spring-flowering geophytes. Colchicine is a very, very poisonous chemical and binds to and messes with tubulin. It is used to treat a range of diseases, such as gout. It is also used in plant breeding. Colchicine can stop chromosome segregation during meiosis and can create gametes with more chromosome sets than they should have, leading to polyploid embryos. If they survive, they may have different properties than the previous generation. Colchicine with its related structures is synthesized through an interesting reaction out of a structure that is very similar. It is homologous to a benzyl isoquinoline structure, and this is very curious, especially when we will consider galantamine in a minute. So, in the very closely related Liliaceae, the lily family, there are found tuliposides. These are reactive chemicals, antibiotic storage forms of tulipalins, which are released through intermolecular esterifications. Workers with cut flowers may get dermatitis when handling lilies or tulips, after which tulipalins are named. While you probably haven't heard of a lot of these chemicals, the next ones will be ones that you will definitely have experience with. Within the order Asparagales are the Amaryllidaceae, a family divided into three subfamilies: the Amaryllidoideae, the Alioideae, and the Agapanthoideae. The Amaryllidoideae has the snowdrops, the daffodils, and some other geophytes. The Alioideae contains onions, garlic, and shallots, leeks, and chives, and the Agapanthoideae contain the African lilies. It is important to note that they are not actually lilies, otherwise they would be in the Liliaceae. Both the Amarylioideae and the Alioideae have interesting secondary metabolism, but in different ways. You are likely familiar with the powerful taste of both onions and garlic. Since they are so closely related, this is not surprising, as the compounds within them are similar. These compounds generally start from a compound called allicin, that is enzymatically decomposed when when the cell walls of onions and garlic is broken. The decomposition products of allicin are metabolized within our body into a whole range of different allyl sulfides and disulfides, which give you bad breath for a few hours or even a day after you eat garlicky food. Galanthus is a genus in the Amarylioideae. They are known as the snowdrops, as they flower early in spring, maybe still in between piles of snow, and they are popular garden plants. They contain galantamine, an acetylcholinesterase inhibitor used for treatment of Alzheimer's disease. This chemical is in many ways similar to some benzyl isoquinoline alkaloids, such as codeine. Galantamine, colchicine, and the benzyl isoquinoline alkaloids are end members of different biosynthetic pathways, starting from members of a homologous series. This offers opportunities for investigation into parallel and convergent chemoevolution, such as whether the steps evolved from one enzyme and whether they are structurally predisposed to end with these chemicals. Looking further into the asparagales, we look at asparagus itself, in the Asparagaceae, the asparagus family. The family is large and diverse, but asparagus itself is well known for its tastiness, especially when cooked in butter. What many people have observed, however, is that after eating asparagus, your urine has a bad odor. This is due to asparagusic acid, accumulated in asparagus to repel insects. It is harmless to us, but causes the smelly urine. Asparagusic acid's biosynthesis is not yet fully understood, except that its biosynthesis is unrelated to that of lipoic acid, a well-known cofactor for electron transfer reactions in cellular metabolism, such as in pyruvate decarboxylase. We will finally look at the orchid family, the Orchidaceae. This family is fascinating. It is diverse and a favorite of plant fans worldwide. While they generally do not contain especially interesting compounds, one is very important for us: vanilla. Yes, vanilla beans are in fact the fruit of the vanilla orchid. These pods accumulate vanillin, a simple aldehyde that has a smell beloved by bakers and cake eaters. Vanillin is structurally very simple, derived from precursors available to all plants, but has accumulated pretty much only in the vanilla orchid. Since it is similar to compounds found in many plants, it has been made cheap by a process in which lignin is broken down, reduced a bit, and vanillin is obtained. The development of this process has been very creative, as vanilla has high value and can then be obtained from cheap byproducts of pine tree wood. This is done in Sweden, which, coincidentally, has both a lot of pine trees and IKEA. Another connection that has been made between wood and vanilla is in wines. When tasting wines, notes of vanilla have been associated with maturation in an oak barrel. Those are more or less all the more interesting plants with chemicals, but of course there are many others. There is aloe, there are irises and lily of the valley, as seen in Breaking Bad, but I didn't feel like these were interesting enough to discuss. There are probably many more interesting plants I am not currently yet aware of. So yeah. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something. Maybe you will look at some plants a little differently now.